Hello everyone. So I wanted to share with you my collection of vintage Miele brochures. It's kind of hard to believe. A lot of people still think Miele is a new company in the United States, but they've been around since the mid 80s, 1984, I believe. And am very lucky to have this really cool collection of vintage brochures I picked up from a very early Miele dealer here in Western Pennsylvania several years ago, and then added some more to them when we took over the latest vacuum shop that had been a Miele dealer since the 90s, which I'm going to do a second video on that later. So I was going to start, this is mostly like mid 80s to like late 90s machines, and this is with permission granted from my good friend Owen. This is going to be our first cocktails and cleaners, but the East Coast edition. So cheers, have a drink with me. And let's dive in. So this first brochure is, it's called A Portrait of a Company. Comes in here, gives you the history of Miele, which is to this day still family owned, which is amazing. It shows one of their very early vacuum cleaners here, made in 1927. They actually got their start making like milk separators for the farming industry, and then what was crazy was they realized, well, hey, this could be a washing machine, and they made Europe's first electric dishwasher in 1929, and now it shows you this was skipping ahead very quickly to the 80s, which was showing you the microchips that they used to control the dishwashers and the washing machines. And they show someone here with two built-in Miele washer dryers underneath their cabinets, and a Miele rotary iron, which I would absolutely love to have. And you keep going on. It shows here at one point Miele was actually making kitchens. They did the cabinetry and everything. I love how wonderfully 80s this is, with the parrot just perched up on the window there. They talk about the pedestals in which they would mount the cabinets to. And then this is the modern Miele at the time, which we'll look into a little bit more later. And this is their, they talk about how they're still in the agriculture business. Giant, these are just insane, these gigantic Miele washing machines here for industry. They talk about sanitizing medical instruments here. Looks like a Miele showroom here. It's really cool stuff. I love this. This is the schematics on microfiche, or microfiche. I'm never quite sure how you say it. And then this shows this man standing here in this gigantic warehouse with all of the tooling that they need to produce the stuff. Especially at this point, Miele was making a lot of their own components instead of just being an assembler of things. They were actually making a lot of stuff themselves, which they do continue to do this day. And yeah, this goes into like washing machines, the dishwashers, which are just phenomenal. And I love this giant IBM mainframe. I'm assuming that's IBM mainframe, but yeah, this is just the computer systems back then. And it goes through the different Miele factories. There's Bielefeld, which I know is where the dishwashers and vacuums come from. Their electric motor factory. Looks like they have a factory in Austria. I mean, people don't, in this country, really understand just how big Miele is. And yeah, so this kind of gives you an overview, listings of all the different Miele showrooms, and it does list the United States on here. So this was when they were on World's Fair Drive in Somerset, New Jersey, and I don't see a date on this one. I'm not sure if there's one at the front here or not, but we definitely know it's from the 80s. So moving on from that one, this is slightly out of order. So I tried to organize this the best I could. So to my knowledge, this is one of the first brochures that was available for the Miele canisters when they were being introduced here in the United States. And this is, so this showing here, this would be like a, it was weird. They used a lot of 200 series labels on machines, because this is a 200 series and then a 200 series came after this as well. But looking in here, so this is the S234i, which at the time would have been their top of the line model. They're showing them as straight suction only. You can see here you got the telescopic wand, combination rug and floor tool, and this is with the electronic speed control, so you can regulate the suction power, which was still a pretty novel idea at that point. And you go to the next machine here, which was the 230i. And it's incredible. They talk about a 7.5 quart dust bag, which is huge, especially by today's standards. Inside of here, you had 4 full-size tools stored underneath the hood, including a radiator brush, swiveling dusting brush, full bag indicator. Really a pretty neat machine. I have this model, which I need to make a video on. It's not in the best of shape, but it still runs. Still really cool vacuum. And so at this point in the United States, it's showing they only have like the 2 models. They have the electronic, which is this one, and they have the standard one here. And you flip to the last page here, and it is showing the power heads that were available, which was really, so you had a turbo brush here. This is a Wessel product, and they show it with the turbo brush, and which these actually are kind of nice. They balance really nicely. There's like some weights in the back of it. They're definitely like substantially larger than a modern turbo brush. Sorry, get that back in the frame. And then over here, it shows the electric hose with a pigtail here at the machine end and pigtail going down the wand. I think from the get-go, they knew that the American market was going to require a power head. They weren't going to try to do it without one. And there's been some brands that have come after Miele from Europe that have tried to enter the US market, who have tried to do it without an electric power head, and it just doesn't work. The homes just have too much thick pile carpeting, and you know, it's the home of Electrolux, which invented the power head, so it was kind of expected. And on the back here, this is a really cool accessory which I have with my Profi. And it's crazy to think they were offering it even back then. This is also a Wessel product, and this is cast metal with plastic bumpers on top, and it's a large, like 16-inch wide floor brush, which just has giant thread catchers on the 2 sides. Really cool brush. I've not used mine very much just because I want to keep it in really good shape. And then of course they showed the universal brush, which you can still get pretty much unchanged to this day, which is neat. And so if you look down here, this brochure is dated June of '84. So again, this is very, very, probably one of the earliest brochures of Miele USA for their cleaners. And yes, we have that. So that's the first one. It's the new Miele vacuums. And also, so it's showing here, written on here, $369.95 complete. I'm not sure if I'm guessing that was with the electric power head. I am unsure, but I'm gonna guess that when they say complete, it includes the electric hose and the electric power nozzle with that. So that's the first one. And this brochure is from '85, February of '85, so just a little bit after this one. They sprung for a model this time, and with a turbo brush. And so now they're now showing this is actually, I apologize, this is a different model. So this is the 240i automatic cleaner. So you have the dial speed control here, like the other one, but this one gives you a automatic setting, and they're calling the M Sensonic, which they still offer to this day, a variation of that, which is pretty cool. And they are showing it here with the electric power head option. There's another one that came after this, which, yeah, it's right here. So this is a really cool machine, very boxy, beautiful styling in my opinion, especially for the time. It was a really cool looking vacuum. And now flipping to the next page, this was their upgraded model. This would have been the top of the line at the time. And I have one of these on loan from Owen, actually, that he found at his one of the stores that he bought, and it's in beautiful shape. And so this machine here actually had handle speed controls up here at the top with the slider switch. And what's really interesting about it is the variable speed motor, or this variable speed control, also varies the power head motor. I'm guessing they did not mean to do that, but I'm guessing maybe it was just a programming failure of the circuit board, and they said, we'll just go with it. But it's one of the only machines I've ever known to do that. And this did not have an automatic setting. You just had the variable speed motor up here. And this is when they were still, they mentioned on both pages that they has the blower facility, so that way you could use the machine to not only vacuum but also use it as a blower. It's now showing they introduced their universal upright, as they later called them, the Trivac. At this point is what they were calling them in the United States. This was the Trivac electronic. There's a little dial speed control here at the handle. I would love to find an early one like this. I have probably 30 unopened boxes of bags for these at the store that we have. I don't know that he ever actually sold this body style, maybe just got them by mistake or something. But I do have some. So, and they're showing it here with a very small Miele power head. And I guess you just plug the cord in up here at the top. And then this is the step down universal upright. So there was no variable speed motor. You just had a little vacuum, like air vent here on the bag chamber, so you could lower the amount of suction power when you were, if you wanted to. And then back here, again, they're showing the power heads, turbo brush, electric power head. I have one of these power heads that's virtually unused. It is not mind-bogglingly aggressive, but it is a decent power brush. It's wide, it's a 14-inch cleaning path, kind of L-shaped, kind of a little bit like a Lindhouse brush in a way. And it's just a good brush. I mean, it would never have felt like a Hoover Quadriflex would have on a carpet, but that's really not what they were setting out to do with this with this machine. And they were offering something that, at the time was very, very unique. I mean, if you go back here to this machine or this machine, and with all due respect to metal Electroluxes, you can imagine, like, at this point, a Silverado would have been the new Electrolux. And this was offering you a larger dust bag. You'll see here in a second, there was actually filtration. There's the automatic setting, electronics, variable speed control, crush-proof hoses. It didn't have the direct connect hose and wand, but it was still a really interesting vacuum. It was something that you could see how if you walked into a vacuum store carrying your Hoover Celebrity or, Model L Electrolux, you would see this and be like, it will look nothing else like what's on the market. And they changed not long after this to something really staggering, which is pretty cool. So yeah, they really changed the market in what people expected of canisters. And same accessories here on the back. And this is a really cool brochure. I would love to find one of these. I doubt that I ever will because it went in. They were sold into what was supposed to be commercial use. So I'm guessing that if they did get sold commercially, they probably were used very heavily and long ago discarded. But maybe there's one in a church basement somewhere that got very light use. And this shows a very cool. This is just like a step down modified version of the machines you saw in the other brochure. The main difference is this one does not have a retractable cord. It is basically I don't know if they show a picture of it here. It's like a plug-in cord at the back here. So no cord winder to fail. They just gave you a little hook up here, and I'm guessing this is dated 87. It has the parking feature here. which they don't show on the other brochure. So I'm guessing this came with a revision at some point. I know the parking position came out with the smaller compact 200 series and full-size 200 series that you'll see in a second. So that parking, I'm guessing they just did a mid-production update and added the parking system to this. And this also gave you a combo tool and the really big 16-inch commercial floor brush. And this one here, this is 88. And so looking here, we have some of the same models as before. They go a little bit, yeah, this is showing the new park position. So you could store the machine upright with the wand attached to it. And also, this is the first time we see this logo, the Air Clean. So this is when the Super Air Clean filter from Miele came out, which is crazy. No one in the United States was talking about filtration at this point in vacuums that was not a door-to-door vacuum like a Rainbow or a Filter Queen, and they were introducing electrostatic filtration. So this is their really bare bones machine here. It had a 2-piece wand, manual suction control, did not have integrated tool storage. There was no tool lid here, which is really odd. I'm not sure what you were supposed to do with the attachments. I guess just leave them in the closet because there's no like clip on the wand here. So this was the 227 and then the 230i. And even though this has the I on here, it does not have a variable speed motor. It does have the socket for the electric power head and hose. And I guess this machine here would be incredibly hard to find here in the United States, I'm guessing, because there's no option for the electric power head, no tools underneath the hood. There was a really compelling case to just buy this one. And then you get up here to the S234i. This gives you the variable speed motor. And I believe this is just, this would have been after the newer 200 series came out. And I think that machine is just, it's a 240i, which Miele is known to do when a new model comes out, the old one moves down market. So this is one of the first machines they brought to the United States. And now their new 200s were out at this point. This is the older 200 series. Gets kind of confusing, but this machine just moved down market, and the new 200s would have moved up market, or would have been their new kind of flagship machines. And this goes over all the specifications. Power brush, a little bit of a refresh here. We see the standard bare floor brush come about. More emphasis on the turbo brush, same one, but a little bit of a facelift, different font, universal brush. And now in the back, they're showing the washing machines, the dishwashers, the combi sets, convection ovens. So now, and this is 88, April of 88. So now we're starting to see that they're starting to venture in with more of the of their other appliances into the market as well. And this was what I was mentioning earlier. This is the introduction of the Miele Air Clean filter. And at this point, they hadn't quite figured out, or there wasn't maybe a ability to, but it was actually before the motor. So on all other Miele's after this, the air clean filter was installed after the motor, so it would also capture the carbon dust. In this situation, it was installed in a cassette as the pre-motor filter and captured everything that would come through at that point, just standard paper disposable bags. The intensive clean bags had not been introduced yet. In fact, they wouldn't be introduced for a whole generation, model generation after this. But it is cool that they were thinking about, and this shows you the filtration system, 99.9%. They keep making a very big emphasis on, and they also talk in here, and these did not last long, but there were fragrance capsules available at this point that if you look at certain Miele canisters, especially like a later 200, you would actually see there was a little holder that would hold the fragrance capsule. Those did not last long. Miele, I don't think, sold those very long, but interestingly enough, SIBO does still sell them to this day. They look identical. So I'm not sure if it's the same manufacturer or what, but yeah, this is Miele's introduction of air clean. And this, I would say, was probably the turning point in the Miele product offering, when suddenly they really started realizing they could market air purification or air clean, because after this they would develop even more with air filtration. Here's another brochure, and I'm realizing now we're already 20 minutes into this. I love these though, so bear with me. They're showing this, again, universal upright. This one does not have the electronic speed control. This one's from 87. And they're showing this with the larger full-size 14-inch power head, because at this point, Miele had never made an upright. They were pretty much all stick vacuums and canisters. And of course, the American market has a ton of uprights. So this was their answer. I guess they would call it an answer at that point. And you'll see later what they ended up doing later on. And now this is where we start to get into the really fun machines. And this is a specific brochure for it was called the Miele Silver Star. Grab a drink here. So the Miele Silver Star was a full-size 200 series. But this is when the Miele started to take the shape that people would recognize, I would say, today. So open this up, you have this big full-page picture of the machine, and this folds out. And it doesn't really show you a whole lot about the actual cleaner yet. You can see air clean filters now after the motor, but you can see, though, there's nothing holding it down, so they haven't quite figured out the sealed system yet. But that's coming. It's going to get here sooner than we know it. 5.8 quart dust bags, so slightly smaller capacity from the older machines. At this point, Miele had a ton of different bags. They later consolidated them into a bunch of different, like the G&N and FJM, which made life a lot easier, especially for dealers. And so this is, again, really, I think, an amazing looking machine, especially for the time. And they show on the back here, this is 88. So this and this would have been the new flagship canister, and the older 200s moved down market. And you can see on the back here, so the Silver Star was had the handle controls right up top here, so you could control the suction from the handle grip. This is the first time they introduced the 360-degree casters. First time that I believe this is one of the first machines, canister setup like this, not like a tub vacuum like a Filter Queen, that had 3 casters on the bottom. So this was quite new and very, very different. And in here you can see you lose the radiator brush. You still have 3 full-size attachments. These machines were smaller. There was already an emphasis to kind of make these things a little bit tinier. And the park position for the telescopic tube holder is incorporated into the side here. And these all had a socket for the power head, which remained unchanged from the older 200s. So this was just, this brochure only touched on the Silver Star. This was what they launched. And then after that, this has a little bit more info on the Silver Star. This is a later brochure. This is from 1990. So we're skipping ahead 2 years here. And this is a lot of fun stuff in it. I love this. It's the, because at this point, keep in mind that the German luxury cars had dominated the American automotive market for luxury sedans. So now it's the finest example of German engineering on 3 wheels, which is a very fun little tagline. And so now we start to see a lot of the features that we still see to this day. They make a big emphasis on the click lock removal here. So before that, everything was friction fit from Miele, and otherwise, like other manufacturers, you had the button lock that you really had to jam your thumb in to get it to release. This was a really simplified, easy to attach locking mechanism, which coincidentally, this will fit on a brand new Miele canister, and you can also fit a brand new like Miele Parquet Twister or the All-Tech head right onto this one. It is still the same size fitting. And they talk about like the telescopic tube with the latches that automatically lock. The one nice thing too with the this directional setup or these button locks is it does make sure that the handle of the wand and the floor head are in a straight line, which is actually makes a huge difference when you're vacuuming. I've seen customers have the handle sideways and it doesn't steer very easily, so it does make a difference. At this point, the air clean filter is coming standard in the machines. After the motor, they talk about how these at this point still multiple plies of paper bags, but they're biodegradable and unbleached paper, so they won't harm the environment. And so this is the 270 here. This is the 270 series. At this point, where the confusion comes in is, so the 27 was the body style, or 270 was the body style, where these were 240s and 23s. So at this point, they weren't changing the number at the beginning when they were changing body styles. And this goes over all of the features of those machines at the time. And you can see the different models that they had of this. So you had the entry-level machine here. All of these now have the option for a electric power head, which again was very important in the American market. All had tool storage underneath the lid. And so this one here, no suction control, just automatically defaulted to full power. And then this was the next step up, where you had a step-on suction adjuster back here. And then the Silver Star, which interestingly enough, I see way more Silver Stars than any of those other two models. So I don't know if it was just, if you were gonna buy one, you were just buying the top of the line one, or how that worked. But it's not as hard to find a Silver Star as it is to find some of these other machines. And now this is the first time that, or one of the first times that they're introducing a compact line of canisters. And what's crazy is this this compact 200, this is the 248i. This went on to sell as the Naturel in later guises. It was a pale yellow color, and I believe those were not discontinued until 2008. So 1990 to 2008 is a very, very, very long production run, and they really got their money's worth out of that mold. But Miele has been known to do that, as I mentioned before, and they take great pride here in showing it's just a smaller version of the bigger like the Silver Star machine. This one here has no speed control, and they had the Black Diamond, which was a beautiful canister, and this had step-on suction controls, so you could get higher end features in their compact machines. And I think at this point was when they really were starting to hit the urban markets, because I know Miele's were and continue to be very popular in large city centers like New York City and Los Angeles. So I think that there was definitely the demand for the more compact canisters, and these sold pretty well. And you have the stick vacuum now. They're no longer trying to pass it off as a upright. And now this is the introduction of the, at this point they were calling the 225, 245 power head, depending on the connection here. So this was the first time, and I don't know the history. I would love to know someone from early Miele history who could tell me more about this. This was the, I would say kind of like the first power head designed for the US market. Had a huge metal brush roll in there, metal bottom plate. It's a beefy power brush, and cleans really well. I mean, especially at the time, it's a really decent brush. There's no swivel neck, so it is, and also the handle is locked into position, so it is kind of hard to steer compared to other machines. But I mean, that was again common at the time. Like the Electrolux power heads had no swivel neck yet. It was a neat thing. You still have the turbo brush options and the same accessories as before. And now on the back here, they're showing 1990, the newer 200 series. These machines we never got. This is from 72, but there's some really great videos online. And these older machines here are just beautiful. So at this point in the US market, they needed an upright, an actual, I guess we'll call it full-size upright. And so they introduced these powerhouse uprights, they called them, and there were several iterations of these that sold for quite a while. Pretty neat machine. I actually have one of these. It's been slightly stripped for parts, but it was a floor model at the store. It's in pretty good shape, but I just need to see if I could ever put the entire thing back together. I've just never dove into it very much. These were a Panasonic made machine from the European market, and they were then sold over here under the Miele name. And I'm not quite sure what they're saying, like the first upright of its kind. Bypass vacuums were very much a thing at this point, so I'm not quite sure what they were trying to sell, but they were looking for something. And these machines were, especially by 90s standards, were very, very tiny. And it was fine. It was fine. Not sure I would have chose this over like a Recaro or a Panasonic or Sharp, but they needed something to fill the segment, and this is what they chose. Something that I do love though is some of the language is interesting. So sealed ball bearings also prevent carbon fibers and pet hair from fouling the roller. Interesting choice. And this is the, I guess this would have been the step up from that machine I just showed you, with the electronics and nicer brochure here. You got edge cleaning here, these little brushes that kind of fanned out to get along the edges, and talks about the self-adjusting power head. You can use it on, it says anything from antique oriental rugs to contemporary deep pile carpeting. Filtration, this one also had a cord reel, interestingly enough, and they had a brush control set up on there. So this would have been the step up model from the other one. And there is sadly no date on this brochure, but I would have guessed, I'm gonna guess sometime mid to late 90s. And now I have more of these brochures. I just need to find them, but you can see, so they started to do these very, as the machines went on, they went to like studio settings, and they got very, I don't know if seductive is the word, but they got very fancy with their photo shoots. And so this is one of my favorite machines. I have one of these that was traded in. It was in absolutely beautiful shape. And it was traded in by a gentleman who was buying a new Miele canister, and this was his parents' machine, and they had a Recaro upright that they used to do the carpeting. And I think that they bought a white pearl, and they only ever used it to do dusting and to vacuum underneath the bed, because the dusting brush had no bristles left on it, the original oval shaped one, and the electric power head was almost unscathed. And what's crazy is it had the original HEPA filter in it from, I believe, 1997, and it had no suction when it came in, and they couldn't figure out why. And that machine was so well sealed, and the filter was so full of carbon dust, there was no way that thing was ever gonna move any air through it. So new filter, and it was good to go. This is an early white pearl. So in the previous generation with the Silver Star, they were offering the handle controls. At this point in the 300 series, and this is the first time in the US market, they actually changed. They went from the 200s to the 300s, which made it a lot easier to figure out what vacuum it was. This is an earlier one. It has a step-on speed control. The one that I have has electronics with little push buttons. And the 300 and 400 series machines were the first of the Miele canisters to be completely sealed, which is something they pioneered. And then later on, it was the first to be sealed, and the vacuum itself was to be HEPA rated with it met HEPA standards with the air clean filter. And then you had the option to upgrade to the S-Class HEPA filter, which was actually more expensive then than it is now. I found an old price sheet, and the HEPA filters in the 90s were like $65, and now they're like 59, 55, 59, something like that. So it's actually funny, they actually went down in price because adjusted for inflation would be insanely expensive. And it goes here about how big a micron is. These are things that, again, most vacuum companies have never talked about. And on the underside here, it shows at this point for their full-size machines, they had 4 caster wheels underneath. This is when they introduced the little ramps, so it makes it easier to pull over furniture. They actually talk about the Miele trademark, unrivaled beauty. They were very proud of themselves, and as they should. And at this point, because I believe this was more like a international brochure, it did not show a power brush with this one. It does talk about the universal floor head, or the combo tool. And this brochure is dated from 8 of 94. You then go into the Miele Plus. This machine, this name, went on for a very, very long time with this machine. It later turned blue and went to the SEB 213 with the external cord, and this was always their entry-level power nozzle canister. And this was the old compact 200 series. So when the 3 and 400s came out, this again got moved down market and got a electric power head, a standard, a smooth floor brush, so you could do your bare floor cleaning. And these ones, the smaller machines, only had room for 2 accessories. You had a upholstery tool and a small crevice tool stored underneath the hood. Did not have room for a dusting brush inside the machine, but they did include one separately. Talking about here, so their warranty, they operated for 800 hours. The industry standard is only 500, which is kind of neat to see. This is date 8 of 95. So this brochure is just slightly younger than me, actually. I was June of 95. And this isn't really vacuum related, but it is at one point they were having a Miele giveaway. So apparently if you bought a vacuum, they were giving away 5 washers, 5 dryers, and 5 dishwashers. And you could enter here. Which is funny, there's a little questionnaire here. And it was, what is the best measurement? So you had to fill this out. And it was, what is the best measurement of vacuum suction strength, horsepower, or airflow? What year did Miele manufacture its first vacuum? In what country are Miele appliances manufactured? And the Miele air clean filter retains blank % of all dust, pollen, and bacteria. So it looks like at that point, a dishwasher was $12.95, a washing machine was $12.50, and a dryer was just about $1,000. And we now move on to some later machines. This was a brochure that was specific about filtration. And this is from the 500 series era. And this is when the intensive clean bag was introduced, which was not the first, but one of the earlier synthetic style bags that really did an amazing job with filtration. And so this is where things get slightly confusing, because they're showing here the 300 and 400 series were introduced in 85. Maybe it was an international launch in 85, and we didn't get them here until later. I'm not sure. Again, I would love to talk to someone who was there for the early days of Miele who could tell us these things. But going off what we have here, they give you a timeline. 70s, they talk about the air clean filters. 85, HEPA filtration, sealed system. And 500, 600 series, which is what this brochure is about. First HEPA certified. And they go into this, and so this is talking about dust emissions, comparing the old style Miele paper bags to the intensive clean bags. And this is dust emissions with a air clean filter. So the old S250s, which I believe would have been like a Silver Star, you can see the dramatic decrease here. 300, not so dramatic. The filtration was better at that point. And then you have down here the 500 series. This is with a super air clean filter in it. Really super air clean and intensive clean bag. Really spectacular filtration. And so at this point they had so the intensive clean gray, this is kind of the beginning of the FJM name that we know today, replaced, those were actually bag styles at one point. So that's what that name signified. There was an F bag, a J bag, and an M bag. I guess they realized they were all so close in size they could use one to replace all of them. And same with the white, it replaced the G and the N bag. And this is kind of cool here. So talking about filtration, fine particles per minute coming from the vacuum. And so you have Miele down here, which is like almost, they don't even give you the number, which is odd, but it begins testing against other vacuums. And so this would have been, they list a Phantom on here, which is insane that the Phantom was the next best filtering machine. I guess it would, though, with that giant HEPA filter lobbed onto the side of it. And so it's showing 12 million particles. ElectroPure, the Healthmore product or Filter Queen product. And then it actually, I mean, at this point, they're listening to the Hoover Dimension Supreme, 48 million particles. And if you come down here, I'm not as up on my Hoover models as other people are. They're showing here a Hoover 53611, 288 million particles per minute. I'm guessing that's a convertible or some type of a direct air machine. But again, this is what they were selling at the time. It was different than what everyone else was talking about. And this is from '02, so we're now into the new millennium. And this is brochure here is part of my original collection. So this is the, and I will take a drink before this. And for those wondering, I'm having a Manhattan, which is one of my favorite cocktails. So this is the brochure for the, because I'm American, I will say aluminum, but if you're a Miele diehard, it's an aluminium. And this is when they had introduced like a kind of like a soft touch sprayed on paint finish. There's actually a sample of the paint on here, so it's kind of like a matte finish. They look beautiful coming out of the box. They look like hell in about 5 minutes of use. They really do not age very well. So the aluminium was a interesting machine. This was part of their, I think 75 years of vacuums at this point. So it had the direct connect system, which premiered on the 500 series, where you had the direct connect hose and wand, crush-proof hose, swivel at both ends, and the 213, or at this point I think it's a 217. Yeah, the 217, because it has direct connect. And you had plus and minus buttons on the machine. It did not have handle controls, which is why these are still running, and the Silver Moon, which had handle controls, is not. And this also gave you a turbo brush in the box, which is kind of a nice little add-on feature. And they gave you like a parquet brush that went with it. And over here, you talk about the operating radius, hygiene cover, the little flap you could slide over the opening so it didn't leak dust or germs out or odors if you're storing the hose off the machine. Silent function, bumper, blower facility. This point they were giving you an adapter. It was a little molded plate that you'd slip in and the hose would hook onto that. I guess they realized less and less people were using that and they were no longer building it into the actual housing. This is when we see more of the, so the parking system premiered on the 300, but they talk about here it's been a little bit more refined. So now you could park the wand at the back of the machine or along the side for storage. And that was what was nice with the 217. You could park it on the side of the canister here, carry it one-handed. It made a very compact machine. I actually love this power brush, especially in a modern 2026 house where you have a lot of low power area rugs and bare flooring. You can shut the brush off. This does a great job on bare floors because it concentrates suction so well. and does a really nice job on low pile, like wool or ruggables. They do a really nice job. And that's that. So I wanted to, it's gonna have to be a separate video because we're already at 45 minutes. And if you are still here, I thank you. Coming up in another video, this is, I'm very, very, very lucky to have this. This is this is the Miele 100-year anniversary book. And this goes, and like I said, I'll do a deep dive in this later, but it talks about the history of Miele. But what I love about it is it's not just telling you about, it's giving you a perspective of what's happening at the time. And so like in 1911, this is the cream separator, one of the things they got started with. And they're talking about the coronation of King George V is happening at the same time as this. And if we skip ahead here, also they do not gloss over what was going on in the 1940s in Berlin and Germany. So that's kind of fun. I give them credit for that. But yeah, we'll do another video into this some other time, but this is another piece of vintage Miele brochures that you might enjoy looking at. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope you appreciated and hope you found this as interesting as I do. I'm very lucky to have all these old brochures, and thank you so much for watching.